A really, really strong, powerful Evo is hard to keep up with. Whether it's from a roll, whatever gear you want to hit it from, it's strong. And don't even let me get you on talking about sequential trans on top of that. I don't care if it's GTR, I don't care if it's Lambo, I don't care if it's Viper. Don't get me wrong, those guys have strong miles per hour, but on an average street car, light to light, road to road, or cruise on the highway, y'all both downshift and hit it, a strong Evo is hard to keep up with.
When you say strong Evo,
a strong Evo can be anything higher than 850. I'm not saying it's the fastest, but I'll tell you damn sure it's hard to keep up with it.
They put up a fight for sure.
They put up a fight.
Yeah.
For sure.
Damn. Welcome back to Go Hard Podcast. I'm your host, Noel. Guys, we're back in Orlando. We got a very special guest. You've seen his YouTube. You've seen his tech tips, you know, his tuning tips. He's been going crazy on these Evos, man, honestly. And in general, just tuning, right? He shared a lot of knowledge to people. If you're watching and he's worked on your car, you know, he's helped you out. But let's give it up for Desmond.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Introduce yourself, Desmond, and then tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Desmond Pierre here, owner of Performance Destination. Background is automotive. You know, always it's been automotive before it was automotive performance.
Yeah.
And then you know, my background is Caribbean. I'm Caribbean heritage, Trinidadian and Grenadian, and you know, moved to Orlando. 6 years ago. Oh, you know, I only moved out here just to kick off my own shop location in Orlando. So, and ever since then, bro, it never slowed down. It never once slowed down. It's been thriving every single year.
There has to have been a car though that you started with. Is you started like in the Caribbeans, or you started in Orlando with your first car?
So I'm born in New York.
Okay.
You know, but I've been in Florida for so long. You know, the earlier cars that I started off with, I used to own an EG Civic, and you know, I was tinkering with that for a little bit. You know, basically right around the high school, right as I was graduating high school, and that's where I learned a lot of mechanic stuff, a lot of my own personal in and outs of, you know, how an engine operates, how a transmission operates, how, you know, how a whole engine and car itself needs to function together. And then I started dabbling off in other things, Supras and 350Zs and other little things like that. But yeah, that was my earlier beginnings. Just other platforms I was dabbling with, you know, before I moved to Orlando. Not really trying to stay with one kind of particular brand. And
why?
You know, I don't know. I feel like whenever you stick with one brand, you're characterized as only knowing that one thing. I've always known that. You know, I see a lot of tuners, a lot of shops. If they only do Hondas, they only do Hondas. If they only do Supras, I see a lot of them only doing Supras. And I didn't want to be fit in that category of one manufacturer, one car, one build, one everything. I want to be able to do whatever. So like, I have guys reach out to me, and I've done Porsches. I've done, you know, obviously Evos, Supras, Skylines, turbo NSXs, S2000s. Like, you know, I want to dabble with it all, not be limited to one manufacturer and whatnot. So I want to, you know, be more open with my skill set.
What about American cars?
Oh, definitely.
Chevy, Ford.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot those, man.
Yeah, you gotta have those too. And the crazy thing is, I'm almost done. I'm building a twin turbo Coyote.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so that's almost done.
Your personal?
Personal car. Yeah, I don't know. It was something about the Coyote platform. It really drew me. I had other cars, but I was like, you know, it always caught my attention, but I didn't know if I wanted to, you know.
Why did it catch your attention?
I think just I love the look of the S197, and you know, the Coyote stuff, how much power, how easy. It's not cheap. I'll tell you that right now. The Coyote platform is not cheap, but it would definitely take care of you. I'll say that. You spend the money one time the right way, it take care of you. So I was like, you know what? Let's see what it's like. I remember one company told me, actually it was UPR. UPR is a Mustang company.
Oh, they do all the suspension.
All the suspension stuff.
Shout out to UPR.
One of the reps from there, he told me, he was like, Desmond, I see all the cars you're doing on Evos and all this stuff like that. For 4-cylinders, he's like, bro, if you did the same thing that you're doing on 4-cylinders that you do on V8s, you probably go nuts in the market. And he's like, is this for what power you're able to make on 4 cylinders, how strong and drivability, reliability. If you could do that same thing on the V8 platform, he said you would probably take off and you will love that even more. And so that always stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
Every year since he said that to me. And then like I had an opportunity to buy a chassis. I bought that chassis, S197, from Mike Rich. And I bought an engine, I think that same year from Real Street, but it's also a fast forward racing engine.
Okay.
And I just started going ham, so started buying everything, but I wanted to buy one and done. I didn't want to do stock block built head or built head stock combination. I want to do everything, all the right parts one time and just see what it does, you know? So even though I'm doing a lot of the imports and Evos and this and that, I also do the domestic stuff, LS stuff. I got my mainline Pro hub dynos here too, so I use that for that. But I'm also trying to, enjoy that Coyote platform for myself, you know, and see what it's like, see what it's about.
Yeah. For those that are watching, I just want to let everybody know we are on the all-wheel drive dyno. Something different, but it's kind of, it's flexible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's awesome though, to be honest.
Yeah. I figured we just do it on the dyno.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it is for me. Everything with me is dyno.
Ooh.
I don't, I'm not wrenching. I ain't
Dyno
doing nothing
street.
else.
Don't forget the street.
Oh yeah, street too. But it starts here.
Yeah.
But it starts
here.
here.
The street over there.
You start here.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the dyno.
So not to get too much on the Coyote, but so you went with the FFRE block, right?
Mm-hmm.
That holds maybe what, 15, 17?
It holds more. I got buddies of mine, Jim, Brett, them guys, north of 2,000.
Yeah.
So mine is fully built, it's sleeved, it's everything. I don't know how much power it's gonna make. I really don't care. I just wanted to make as much as possible efficiently and just go out and race. That's it. I'm not chasing down a horsepower goal. I'm not chasing down anything particular. Whatever it makes is what it makes.
Just building it for you.
How you building it for me. Yeah. But I'm also mainly building it for the Drag and Drive.
Oh, nice.
For Sick Week.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I thought that was the coolest event Florida has ever seen. And and that's actually at the end of this month. They do it every year here in Florida, and I thought that was the coolest thing. Sick Week is the best I've ever seen in the car industry here in Florida. It's the coolest thing. So I figured what's better than just putting together a little Coyote build for that.
A lot of competition too.
A lot of competition.
In Sick Week.
Yeah, a lot. I see a lot of pro mods on the street. I see a lot of street cars, race cars, all kind of stuff. If you can race it and you can street drive it, hook a trailer up to it, why not?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
What okay, so let's get back into it. You were in New York. Oh no, you came to Orlando, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you started tuning when?
So I started dabbling with tuning basically almost right out of high school. So it wasn't like when I came to Orlando.
That was what, 3 years ago?
No, I graduated. I graduated a while back. But when I moved out to Orlando, I started off doing one Evo, because I moved to a whole new city where nobody knows me. I'm coming from more like Southwest Florida, so I'm more known down that way, locally and whatnot. Cause there's a lot of street racing back down that way. Near Fort Myers.
Okay.
Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Sarasota, that area.
Yeah.
But then I moved out here and just I did one car. That one car had a word of mouth to another car. That one car had another word of mouth to another car. And then it's just it just started tumbling so fast after that. I couldn't even keep up. It started tumbling so fast. And it's the same time I also advertise heavy. So I work hard and advertise, but then it's just one car led to 5, 4, 50, 20, and I couldn't just keep up after that.
I think you you skipped over the street racing because I don't think you want to talk about it, or you want to talk about it.
No, what do you want to talk about?
You said you were known in like.
Yeah. So back then,
What car was it? You know,
So
how
it was
much power was it making?
it was the first car.
Who beat you?
Very rarely. Very rarely. It was an old school, not really old school. It was the EG hatch, all motor build. What year was that? 2007, a while ago.
Yeah.
Back when the street racing stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was all motor, fully built, individual throttle bodies.
Nice.
Old school parts, RMF header in the Honda world, they know what that is. And I think it was about 240 horses, 170, 180 foot-pounds of torque. And back in those days, that was strong. K-Series wasn't the thing yet. They were coming out, obviously people doing K-swaps, but it wasn't the thing yet like that. But yeah, I did that, and that car ran hard. Yeah. And I can't even fathom when I was building that, what it was gonna feel like at that time. It feels strong.
Yeah.
It felt really strong. Did a lot of street racing down that way. Won a lot of street racing down that way. But I kind of just wanted to pull back a little bit from it, because I started getting more professional in my work environment. I got a CDL and stuff like that, so I didn't want to be in the streets as often. So I kind of use my judgment to be it's better to me to pull back, maybe go to the track, maybe do some private stuff, but not to be people used to call me out of my sleep and I'd go down there and go street race.
Damn.
Yeah, and it'd be heavy. It'd be heavy. That was a while ago. So it was fun times.
You miss them days?
I miss those days.
Ooh.
I miss those days. Street racing, everyone loves street racing.
Yeah.
If it was safe.
Yeah.
It was never really safe, but it was the enjoyment. It was the rush.
Yeah.
It was the rush. It didn't matter how fast you were, how slow you were. The street was the equalizer, and everybody, either you had to know how to drive your car to win that race.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I loved it.
So you just touched back on the tuning. So right now you do aftermarket ECUs, right? Did you start with factory ECUs?
No, the crazy thing is I started with aftermarket ECUs right off the bat.
You see
So that's I started off with the AEM computer.
Okay.
So I started off with AEM V2, which is, if you're just starting to tune, that's not the computer to start off to learn.
Why?
So that particular computer had so many functions and settings and different tables within tables, and it was so much. So if you just started off tuning and you're looking at so many parameters, you get confused. But you start to learn, little by little, what this table does, what that table does, what this adjustment does. You're really not going to learn until you fail. That's the best way to put it. When you learn and you punch the wrong number, you do something wrong, and something happens, that's when you really learn. But I didn't do it for others like that. I started doing it for myself first. And I had my Civic at the time, and then I also had a turbo S2000 at the time. The S2000 had the AEM on there, and my Civic at the time had Honda. And playing around with those two things, the Honda stuff is really cookie cutter. It's it's really simple. But the AEM, not having that background of what to do, I learned it. I learned it from there, and other computer systems I started getting into, and started learning those. They're in a sense they're all the same. It's just they're labeled different wordage. It's in different stuffers in different folders, different categories.
Nomenclature.
Yeah, so you just gotta just know how to navigate it. They're all the same. It's just the navigation of it is what you need to learn between all the computers. But the AEM, the V2 was the first one I actually started dabbling with in my earlier days.
What about the Motec? Do you ever get into that?
No, not too much. With the Motec, it's not much of an average computer that everyone wants to spend money on. It's definitely top tier. I think Motec is the top of the top. I don't know anybody who's higher than them. But for the average guy or the average car that comes through, or they want to make either 500 to 800, especially in the evil world, they know they can make the power on stock computer. So they trying to, watch their pocket, that type of deal. But if it's a car that you're looking to go fast, looking to race, you're looking to, put a number up, run times, then yeah, you want to gear towards a better computer that would give you all the readings you need, all the data that you need. But at the same time, they look at it like, that Motec is this price, and then but the Haltech, a used Haltech can go for this, or a used AEM can pick it up for $900 or whatever, and it's plug and play. A lot of the Motec stuff, they make plug and play jumpers as well, but then they're trying to be more price efficient. So for me, the Motec stuff is not as common, but I'm actually building a new car now, another Evo. And I think
a black one.
Yeah, that black one. I think I'm gonna put the Motec on that car.
Ooh.
Because I want that on that, and we'll see, see what it's about.
Yeah, a little razzle dazzle.
Yeah, see what it's about, see what it's about.
So when you got into tuning, did you have like a mentor or maybe somebody that helped you along the way or to start off on tuning?
Yeah, I had a few people actually. I've always told people the reason why, how fast I grew.
Because you're young.
Yeah, I'm 36.
Yeah.
So the reason how fast I grew is because, I had a few people who, in my early days, when I first started, they shed some light on some stuff. Some people, when they learn one way. They learn one way. It's even if it's the wrong or the right way, they learn one way.
Yeah.
Tuning like this, tuning like this, tuning like this. It has to be this reading, has to be this number. That's not the case. I learned tuning, from a few people that mentored me along my way, and I've learned it in different avenues, different directions. AFR number doesn't have to be at that particular number for the car to idle smooth, cruise smooth. Some people, when they tune a car, it has to be Stoich 14.7, but that's not the case. Because what if it does have Stoich and it doesn't idle properly? So then you want to, what if it idles better at 14.1 or 13.9 or whatever like that? Then what are you gonna do? I'm gonna put it to what the engine wants. Mm-hmm. So I've learned to tune different avenues, different ways, and I just take a little bit of all the knowledge of all the good, plus whatever my hands-on stuff I've learned and made it in one.
Yep.
And so I appreciate those who helped me along my way, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not something that you learn overnight like that. You can learn it and pick up and do a little fuel adjustment here, a little fuel adjustment there. But when you get to a level where you're tuning anywhere between 3 to 450, almost 500 cars a year, and then multiple computer systems, that's when it starts getting hard. So you have to you can't be so one way.
Yeah.
One way of learning, So the people that guided me on my come up, they taught me some stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that maybe I didn't like how they operated on certain things, but at least I grabbed what little good they had, what little good this person had, and what little good this person had, and then I had my own trial and error, and I figured out my own pieces and made my own puzzle.
So starting with AEM, do you recommend that now?
No.
What?
You can. It don't matter what computer system you start with.
Yeah.
You can start off with any computer. I think.
Well, your opinion and your preference.
Yeah, it really is. I got a lot of people who started off on Haltech. There's many computers out there.
If somebody were to bring a car and they're like, hey, I want to go aftermarket ECU for this reason, blah blah blah, right? Mm-hmm. You're not gonna recommend them the AEM. What would you recommend them?
They want to go aftermarket ECU for
whatever their reason the case may be.
Well, it depends on what kind of car. So if it's a circuit racing car, if it's an oval track racing car, drag racing car, or if it's just a street car, that depends what it is. Everybody has different. Every ECU is gonna have different functions. Every ECU is gonna easier than the next. Now, if it's an ECU, depending on if it's an ECU that where I'm always going to give track support, or if it's ECU where I tune the car and you may have to go in there and make your own, little day-to-day adjustments for the track prep or whatever like that. have to be something that's also user friendly for the customer too, because I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, you know what, go to Motec, and then you go to the track, and then now you're stuck, trying to do your own track support. Don't get me wrong, Motec's the best, but I also want it to be a little bit more user friendly. Like you could put a Holly in there. Holly is very user friendly to the customer. It's very cookie cutter, easy drop down menu. So in this case, if you had to make an adjustment and change on the fly, and I'm not there, it's easier for you to enjoy your car still and not just be there and you go to the track, spend all this time and money, and then you fail.
Yeah, I get you. And then like another thing with Holly or any other ECUs that are common, other people in the track might know as well.
Right, right. And that's another thing too. So if or if your computer messes up, or if it burns up, or the wiring shorts something out, if you're there and you have a particular computer that nobody else is running, then it makes it a little bit harder to get a replacement. So if you have your laptop there and your map is saved and you have a computer that is common at the track, like Haltech is at the track all the time, Fuel Tech's at the track all the time, they're there at their booths and they're there and they can just sell you a new unit. You take that computer, do an update firmware, and you drop your map right back in there. Boom. And continue on racing. Yeah. So that also plays a factor in, what type of racing there too, because those companies, they're always at the drag racing events. So if it's drag racing, then you want to get something that's a little bit more friendlier among the pits sometimes. Yeah. That's if you even if you're trying to tinker with your own car. Like if you're like son and pops, they build a car and they want to mess around with themselves. They want something a little user friendly. Then they could you want to get something that's a little bit more friendly around the pits.
So what would it be like for a street car?
They're all could be for street car. There ain't no ECU to say like that's not for a street car. There's no ECU to be like, okay, this is for this and this is not for that.
Right.
They're all could be for street cars.
I'm saying that because you made it seem like a track car is for this ECU, like the way you were explaining it to me.
Yeah. Well,
the street car is for this ECU. The oval track car is for this. That's how.
Right.
That's how I took it in, honestly.
Well, so when I mentioned that is because certain ECUs you can do like custom strategies for like time-based stuff, ramping stuff for like boost or anything like that. So depending on that. For that kind of stuff, or if you want to, if it's a drag car, if it's a race car, but if it's a regular street car, you want to make 600 horsepower, 700 horsepower, 900 horsepower, and you're just kind of driving around just to enjoy it. You go to Cars and Coffee, you go to little car shows, little hangouts, you're taking the family around. All those ECUs can do just that, right? But if you, depending on how far you want to get into the racing, depending on what ECU you want to go with too. So this way you can have custom strategies to do what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Which one do you like tuning on? As if that's even a question. Like which one is easier for you, and you know what I mean?
All right. It's not that I like tuning on all of them. I have to stay up on all of them. There's not a particular one. Like I can't say.
Nobody has a favorite. Like there has to be a favorite. Honestly,
I think AEM is the easiest. But not to say that I like them all, because the thing is I have guys who come through my door. If it's a Supra or a Skyline, they tend to always come through on Haltech. If it's an Evo, they always tend to come through either stock computer, AEM, or Link ECU. If it's like a Toyota Chaser or IS300 or the Lexus SC300, a lot of them they come through on ECU Master. So they're all different. They all do the same. They all have different layouts or whatnot. Or if it's just a LS swap Fox body, they come in on all day long on Holly. Yeah. So like I can't be geared towards having a favorite because what happens is you only want to push that one product. Right. There's a lot of tuners and a lot of people who only push one product, and that's nothing wrong with that. It's their personal preference. But with me, I never know who's gonna call me, so I always try to like stay up to par on all.
Be ready.
Because you have to know all, because if you're a tuner, then I get weird phone calls. I have a Miata swap time attack car. You know,
Bro,
I'm on.
don't say the Miata Lamborghini swap engine.
Yo, I see all kind of stuff.
From SEMA. Remember, did you see the one?
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
The fake one?
Said the fake one.
No, it was.
Yeah.
You see? Bro, if you ever get that phone call, I don't know.
No. There's a lot of cars I turn away though. There's a lot of cars I turn away.
Why?
Because a lot of things I don't really dabble in, and I really don't want to. I don't want to dabble in. I got a lot of just random cars, and and just it's not my. If it's not really my forte or my market or like that, then I don't do it. Cause I already do so much platforms. So like I don't want to do every platform.
So what do you turn away?
I do a lot of the Volkswagen stuff. I do a lot of the Hyundai stuff. I got a lot of people call in for the Hyundai stuff. I turn that away. Not to say it can't be done. I think a lot of markets are just missing
Support. Aftermarket support.
Well, they're missing professional support.
Gotcha.
Like professional tuners. Like a lot of people don't want to dabble with that much with the Volkswagen as much, or the Volkswagen stuff as much, or the Audi, not Audi, the Hyundai stuff as much. I get a lot of that. The Hyundai market is probably the biggest market that's just left stranded. That's the biggest market that's left stranded. So it's whenever I don't do them, or I tell them I don't want to, they feel the most depressed on the phone.
Damn.
Because they called around 10 other shops. And they don't have that support, on that professional level. But I already do so many platforms already. Like I don't need to be in every circle, know. Unless I want to get into a new market, then I'll dabble in that. Or if I feel there's a shift in my current market, we're already doing so many cars to tune, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I want to get into something new.
Maybe I should. Hey, I'm doing Hyundais now.
Hey, it's there for somebody.
All I gotta say, if somebody's watching and you want to just pick up the, do Hyundais. Start doing Hyundais.
Yeah, it's there.
Might make some bank.
That market is there. I feel like whoever, I told this a few people, whoever gets into the Hyundai market is going to probably thrive. And it sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds crazy because there's so many Hyundais on the road and they don't have nobody in their market to help them.
Wow.
So I feel like whoever gets into that will thrive.
Wow.
So.
And you said that with a lot of pride too.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Well, you worked on many cars. I don't want to be specific, right, for you.
Yep.
But the Evo, on the factory ECU, what can you push those to that where you have to go aftermarket ECU after?
The deciding factor for the stock ECU, for aftermarket ECU, is depending when you need to start seeing data. When you start getting up there in some pretty spicy boost pressure, you need to start seeing data start coming through that the stock ECU lacks.
Yep.
It's a basic computer. Is there limitations for horsepower? I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel like if you have enough wastegate pressure to make boosts, you have enough fuel demand, the car will still make power. It'll keep making power. Enough turbo, enough engine, enough everything, a car will make power. I don't see a problem in that. It's just when it starts getting to the point where you're at the track, now you need to monitor, you run a time, and now you need to look at the logs to go faster, you're limited on the stock computer. So it's gonna show you a lot of just basic functions.
Right.
So,
That's kind of, to be honest, that's kind of with any car though,
Yeah.
right? You want to see different parameters and
you want to see
exactly
it,
what's happening.
Even if you don't need it right there and then, you at least know it's there in case you need to revert back to, okay, what was the fuel pressure at that RPM range? What was the voltage at that RPM range? Let's see it side by side, and let's see if the fuel pressure is dropping off. Let's see if different settings through the logs, and the stock ECU doesn't do that. But I love the stock ECU. I love it because it's it's just easy to make changes. It's a stock ECU, and then they make flash cables so where you can reprogram the settings, download it, reprogram the settings, flash it back, test it out, do the same thing again. Change the settings, flash it back, test it out, and you keep doing that until you get the car where you want it at. of the power, performance, or how it needs to drive where you want it at. But the stock ECU is great. You know, I feel like the Evo community definitely have a huge benefit, because right off the back, you could do minor bolt-ons, or if you want to do injectors and slightly bigger turbo, and then you could retune the stock ECU without trying to buy a standalone ECU. So like they're already having a huge price savings just by that. So a lot of the times they want to just keep it on stock ECU until they get to the point where, you know, now they're fully built, 64 mil turbo, 68 millimeter turbo, 72 millimeter turbo, and then now they want to go to a standalone because now they want to see more data because they invested more money into their car and they want it to live.
Yeah.
So they want to see more data.
They want the safety features and everything.
They want the safety features, you know? So like sometimes if you're on a stock computer and if you do a run, you don't know if what's going on beyond your factory readings. Beyond that, you know what I'm saying? You can't, a lot of safeties you also can't set up in the stock ECU stuff. So you're kind of limited there too for safety as well. But I don't think there's any like power limitations. I think this has been someone who made over 1,000 on stock ECU. On stock ECU, yeah.
Damn.
I did probably close to 900 when I went to my travel tune trip to Virginia. So I had a few cars over there, close to 900 on stock, and I think it was, you know, no problem there at all. You know, it's just more dicey.
Yeah.
It's a lot more dicier. You know, you just got to be more cautious.
More spicy. Yeah.
Going up in boosts, making pulls in the dyno, checking the AFRs, making sure shit's right. You know, I'm very like old school, so I pull spark plugs. Every session I do, I'm pulling spark plugs. You know, I'm pulling it, checking what it reads, checking what the strap color looks like, checking the heat, how much coloration going down the threads. I'm checking all that because on stock ECU I can't see everything. So like I have to have a balance of what the ECU, what I'm putting in the ECU, and what the spark plugs look like, because you can't fool the spark plugs. Yeah. You know, you could probably fool some readings, force it to read a certain way, but you can't fool that spark plug reading. That'll tell you the true of how your car is really performing.
And you like the average person sees an Evo and they're like, well, that's a 4-door car, you know? So what makes it so special, you know?
I don't even know.
Is it a 4-door car, but it weighs, is it light?
I don't even know the true answer for that. I think it's a 4-door car, but it's stylish. You know,
don't say because of Fast and the Furious, bro.
It's not even. That car in Fast and the Furious wasn't even an Evo.
Lancer, right?
It was a regular Lancer.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a real Evo.
Yeah.
So like, the Evo was just different. I can't say what it is because I'm not much of a fan of other 4-door cars.
Yeah.
But out of the Evo realm, I don't think I like anything else 4-door out of the Evos. But the Evo has.
You like the Hellcats?
No.
No, I'm just playing. No, that was a little slug. I'm just playing.
No, but it's just the style, the body lines, the shape. When you're looking at it, it's like you have blindfolds on. You don't even see the other 2 doors in the back. You don't even see the other 2 doors in the back. Yeah. You're just looking at the body lines like this thing looks good with a wing, no wing, lowered, wheel fitment, turbo out the front bumper for the fourth.
Front end,
it's everything, the front end, the rear end. The interior, when I sit inside an Evo, you know, driver's seat, I'm not even thinking about the back seats or back doors. It just feels good. I don't know what it is. It's literally a comfortable driver's car. It's comfortable. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't care what anybody say. That's the best feeling when you get into the Evo, when you can make 700, 800, 900 horsepower and then turn the AC on and just cruise and be all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And be all-wheel drive.
That's what I was gonna say next. They're all-wheel drive too.
That's it, man. I love it. Coming from the front-wheel drive stuff, you know, racing, street racing, it was always a pedal fest. Yeah. You know, I had to like, you know, and then I get a little traction and I'll go full throttle. But now with the Evo stuff, you know, when we go out and make street hits, whatever like that, when my customers after we finish dyno tuning, them guys don't even lift. I check the log, It's 100% throttle the whole time, yo. Only time they lift it is when they're shifting, and they right back on it. And it's just, sometimes I get some strong ones, and they may try to crab walk a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. I feel like even though an Evo could crab walk, I still feel like I'm in control. Even crab walking, I still feel it. Other cars, it feels a little sketchy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels good.
And is that with like having a traction control and everything?
Well, depending on what computer you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending, most of the time it's stock ECU. Forget it. You ain't gonna have that.
Yeah.
But depending on what ECU you have, if you have it set up for traction control and whatnot, but most of the time you don't really need it. You don't really need it like that. You know. It hooks. Regular street car, mild or spicy power, it hooks.
Yeah. So what about the trans on the Evo? They pretty good?
Those are strong.
They're strong?
People are, I don't know why, they think, depending on which one. So there's a 5-speed and there's a 6-speed. So the 6-speed is not that strong. But a lot of people, they'll drive around and they'll come in, they'll get tuned, even though they're built, even on stock 6-speed, they'll be like, oh, it's still 6-speed. So like, I gotta keep the torque kind of soft of ramping in and then make power up top, or they'll be like, just want to get tuned, leave it kind of like soft in a way, because I'm about to put a 5-speed swap in it soon. And then when you put a 5-speed swap in it, then like, it's all game. You can make anywhere between 7 to 1,000 on stock trans.
Stock 5-speed trans?
Stock 5-speeds, they handle a lot of power, a lot of torque. That also depends on how much abuse you have going through too. So the more you abuse it, obviously, I don't care how strong you are, it's gonna break. Yeah. You have fully built dog boxes that are abused and they break. Yeah. So not to say a stock transmission can't break, but it holds up the power. So a lot of the guys I do, that's if I get really spicy, 600 foot-pounds of torque to 730 foot-pounds of torque, and they still hold it. They still hold it now, but these are like regular street cars. They're not at the track, they're not racing, they're not doing a bunch of launching and digs.
I was about to say the digs.
That's what it really is. The digs is what, it shocked the transmission and breaks it.
Yeah.
But they're just doing like roll stuff, hang out with some friends, some buddies, cruising to this spot, everybody kind of just doing some runs in the way. Not a problem.
Yeah.
It's handling the power and it holds up. The whole drivetrain holds up.
And the motor?
Motor's a different story. Motor's strong. It's strong but weak at the same time. It's strong.
Where's it weak at?
The rods.
Okay.
The rods. Yeah, the rods are weak. So if it's a stock block, I always have to be mindful on the boost curve. How much boost it sees at a certain RPM point. Cause I don't want the boost to be, it makes its most boost and most torque at such an early RPM range. So I have to push it out a little bit and get a little bit more have a little bit more strategy on the curve of that, just to keep it alive. Because you want to keep the torque low, but then it'll make the horsepower. But if you keep the torque low, so you don't shock the rods too hard, then it would have a longer lifespan.
Yeah. So let's say, what rods would you put in it?
Anything aftermarket, but anything I-beam, okay. I feel like they make H-beam stuff, not a problem. Can you make power on it? All day long, probably can. But I feel like, if you're gonna open up a motor to build it, just build it once, one and done. One and done. A H-beam rod may cost you whatever amount of money. An I-beam rod, who knows, maybe cost you $200-$300 more, but it is that stronger rod, because most of the time when they put together a motor, and they want 600 horsepower. Okay, they put together that setup, and then all of a sudden now they go to a built setup. They go to bigger turbo. Now they tune it for that. They get a little bug of power. They feel it. Like, man, this feels good. I want more. And now they want more. They want more torque. It makes a lot more. And now I have to have that conversation with them. We're at roughly 700 horses, 550 foot-pounds of torque. Your Eagle H-beam rods or whatever, the manly stuff is a lot stronger. It's not really designed for you to try to make trying to go for that 800 plus, Would it hold up? Yeah, it'll hold up, but for how long? So just go with a stronger rod right off the bat. You know, let's go with a good strong I-beam rod, strong rod bolts.
Like Oliver rods are pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I look at is the Manly stuff and the BC stuff.
Okay.
BC, the Manly and BC, I will go with those. Those are really strong stuff. You know, I don't really hear nothing bad about them. A lot of the race car guys, you know, they're using aluminum rod, but you know, everybody has their own personal preference,
right, and
whatnot.
Why do you say so you're saying the I-beam is stronger than the H-beam?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
I think it's just
because you know that's kind of a lot of people say the H-beam stronger.
No, I-beam is stronger. You know, so whenever you're putting together a setup or a build, automatically, if you call any parts place, what like that, you're like, oh yeah, I want to make 900, I want to make 1,000, I want to, you know, everybody always have that 1,000 number in the back of their mind, like people wake up wanting 1,000 horsepower, like if it's like breathing air. Oh yeah, I want 1,000 today, you know. But they always go towards the I-beam rod. The I-beam rod is stronger. It also comes with the stronger rod bolts as well, it's for more torque, more clamping force.
Yep.
It's a better material rod as well than the H-beam stuff. But you know, it all depends on how much you want to dig into this build, how much money you want to go into it, how much horsepower you want to go into it. Where are you right now, and where do you want to be in the future with it?
Right.
You know, that's where it tends to get more dicey, because they'll build a car now, and then a year or two later, now they're trying to like, man, I should have went with better rods because I want to make more power. I want to upgrade the turbo, and they don't have the setup for that.
So what you're saying is overbuild it, like the motor wise, because I mean, well, it's not really overly building, right?
You're not overly building it.
Right.
You're using the same stuff.
Right.
For all the rest of the stuff.
Spend a little bit of extra money.
Spend a little extra money on the rods.
Right. Yeah.
You know, spend a little extra money on the rods. Yeah. You know, you can't not go wrong with that.
Exactly.
You know, so it's only a benefit for you and the longevity of your setup. But then again, I've done Evo X's on H-beam rods, over 600 foot-pounds of torque, you know, just fine. But on H-beam stuff, I don't like to push it that hard on H-beam stuff. So, you know, on a car like that, if you're already at 600 foot-pounds of torque, you're already up there on the 800 range of power. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I would just went with an I-beam rod and call it right there and then.
So the block's pretty strong, huh? The cast,
yeah.
Is it cast?
Yeah, it's strong. It's really strong. You don't have to sleeve it, nothing like that.
It just has a liner?
It's a closed deck block.
Okay.
It's a closed deck block. It's strong from factory. Those cars, rods, pistons, upgraded the oil system. They make power. Yeah. You know, good tuning behind it, good fuel system behind it, good turbo behind it.
Performance destination tune.
I feel like, you know, there's many people out there. There's many great tuners. There's many great people. You know, everybody has their own sauce that they bring. You know, everybody has their own sauce they bring. I bring a different sauce than the next person. The next person bring a different sauce than me. So, but everybody brings their own sauce.
What could you say makes you different than this tuner or that tuner?
What makes it different from me?
That you've seen, maybe you got a car, right? I'm sure you have gotten a car and you see their tuning, right?
Yeah.
What do you say makes you different as far as that aspect?
Well, the tuning wise, I'm not too sure of that. What makes it different is being more personable with the customer. So like every car I tune, I go over everything.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's good, bad, or the ugly. We go over everything. I got guys who come here to tune just to figure out their issue. Even if we don't even get to finish a full session. They want to figure out what's going on, why it's doing this. They've been battling with this car for so many years. You know, even if it turns out being a good day and we make power, car runs phenomenal, I still go over everything. I pull them to the screen. I'll go over how it builds, what it looks like. I'll go over the spark plug stuff with them. I'll basically teach them about their car.
Damn.
So like, you know, I try to book only one car a day because I'm gonna put so much time into that particular customer. So, you know, I'll go over everything. We'll go over your fuel system. We'll go over why the car didn't idle right beforehand, why it's idling better, why it's cruising better, why is it overheating, why is it not making boosts, why is it making too much boost. how can we make more power? How can we have the power hold out better? I'll go over all those details with the customer.
Wow.
All my videos, every session, like I just take time and do that. A lot of people don't do that. They may tune a car, your car made this much power, and roll it off the dyno. Or if a car has problems, a lot of other tuners, they just be like, you know what, man, back it off the dyno and bring it back when it's ready. You know? But the thing is, when you do that, when you send your customer out the door that way, they don't have no understanding why it ran that way. They have no understanding why it's performing, operating, overheating, boost cutting, falling off on boosts, or whatever. They don't understand anything. That's why they brought it to you, because they're trying to have somebody professional go through it and look over it. So I feel like if you brought it to a professional, the professional needs to be professional and go over all that stuff with you. This way you can, when you leave here, you already know the ins and outs of your car, because what happens is you leave that window open for social media to tell you how to build a car, how a car's ran, because
forums and Facebook,
and they get a bunch of other answers that are either 8 out of 10 is incorrect.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people who give their opinion aren't even the people who are tuning their own car. But they also went on social media before in their time and asking for help. So I feel like, you know, just be more personable with your clientele. And I feel like that's also a bad thing, a good and a bad thing for me, because I'm so personable with people. I always answer calls, emails, WhatsApp, texts, you know, and it's like, I'm so easy to reach. A lot of people have a hard time reaching other tuners because they'll tune their car with them and they don't hear from them, or they're dodging them, or they don't pick up their calls or their texts. But I'm always picking up and I'm always answering back. Or even if I, give me like a few hours or a few moments, and I'll answer back. But that's also, it's good and bad, because then it's like, I never catch a break. But at the same time, I love my clientele.
Yeah.
I love what I do, so I'm always gonna be there for them.
On the edge.
I'm always gonna be there for them.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, right? Like you want to help. You have badass customer service, right? But there are guys that can say, "Well, you're not the mechanic," you know. Like there are the tuners that are gonna say, "You're not the mechanic."
Yeah.
That's their build. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the difference. Like when you're not,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not the mechanic.
Yeah.
I'm not the one wrenching on it, but I'll tell you exactly what's wrong with it. So this way you can go back to your mechanic.
Yeah.
Or you can go back, because say if it's garage built and you built it yourself, at least you know what you need to do.
Gotcha.
You know, I don't need to be your mechanic to tell you. It'll just take me whenever I go over stuff with a customer, it'll take me like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and I'll go over everything real quick. That 10 minutes, when that customer leaves, they're leaving with peace of mind. They already know what they need to do. They love that they understand their car. They love that they know why the car was running the way it was running for half a year, 5 months, 2 months, whatever. And I start to shed some light on some stuff.
They love the help.
Yeah, I love the help. So me going over this stuff doesn't mean like, oh yeah, let your mechanic go over it. Because at the end of the day, your mechanic is not tuning it, so he's not seeing the things of what you've seen. If you know the car is boost cutting or falling off from boost or all these things that you can give them to look over, your mechanic wasn't in the driver's seat with the laptop seeing all this stuff. So when he gets it, he's gonna scratch his head like, where do I start?
Yeah.
At least you can give that information to the owner. The owner could pass it off to their mechanic, and then they could dive in and figure out what's going on with it.
Do you get a lot of the blame game when it comes to tuning, as far as like, let's say this shop or this mechanic, like, oh, the tuner's messing up on here?
Yeah, you'll get a lot.
I've experienced that myself. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of that. You'll get a lot of that, and
how do you surpass that?
And I think that happened beginning of time. Every tuner is always going to have that. Every tuner, every shop is always going to have that. It doesn't even matter. It don't even got to be a shop. It could be someone who does brakes. I just left here and it's squealing, and I'm going to another brake shop, and they said that you didn't do this right.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's just being honest with your customers, being straightforward with your customers. Also making sure they're bringing a car to you correct. A lot of the times they're not all the time bringing a car to you correct. So it's a very like gray area there because you know it's not correct. That's why they're bringing it to you so you can figure it out. Or
what is not correct?
Like, something not put together right.
Yeah.
Car's overheating. Turbo set up. So I had a guy one time bring me a car to tune, and I tried to make a hit in the dyno, and it made 1 pound of boost. And come to find out, his intake manifold was loose.
Damn.
So then, I don't know that. I'm not sitting there shaking your intake manifold, and I'll tell you, check this, check this, check this, check this. And if you tell me, okay, I checked all those things, everything's looking good, I'm trusting you, kind of in a way. But there's some shops that does it for you.
Yeah.
Like if I'll trust you to a certain point, but if I feel like, okay, the car's not making boost or it's surging like crazy, okay, I told you to check it, but it's still doing this. Let me check it. And 9 times out of 10, I always find the problem. Always. But yeah, you get a lot of that blame game. But you have to go, like I said, when you go over everything with your customer, you build value with your customer, being straightforward, being honest.
Yeah.
If someone came to me and I don't know how something ran, I'll tell them straight up, like, bro, I don't know why this car is running like this. I have no idea why it's running like this. I had a customer one time, car wasn't making power. It was making some spicy boosts, and I was like, bro, we're only at 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
And this car's not making no power. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't put it together. So then come to find out, he had that leaking, bunch of leaks everywhere. He said he did a boost leak test, but I guess how he did the boost leak test, I don't know how much pressure or how he did it.
Right.
He couldn't find it. It did nothing. Everything was somewhat sealing. I did a boost leak test here, and everything was hissing.
What is a proper boost leak test?
How I do it is I'll either put my boost leak tester to the turbo, or sometimes you'll have like a turbo intake pipe.
Yep.
So I'll put it to the intake pipe, but to the turbo. There's 2 ways of doing it. I do a pressurized test. There's a pressurized and a smoke test. The smoke test is cool. It'll help you find little leaks, little things like that.
Is that what they do on evap systems and stuff like that? That smoke test?
I think so. So they can find the leaks.
Yeah.
But you could do the smoke test, but I like to do a pressurized test, me personally, because I like to see, for one,
if it drops or
how long does it hold pressure?
Right.
How long does it hold pressure? Because sometimes I have cars before, I'll do a boost leak test and I'll blow up the pressure, and before I even move my air chuck, the pressure's already gone. And then I'll do a boost leak test, and it will hold pressure for about like a minute, like a whole minute. I could time it or whatever like that, or nothing. The whole thing will be sealed. And I'll go around with soapy water everywhere, and I'll check to see what leaks. But I'll use like dish soap.
Yeah. Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah.
So like any little air bubble, or any little spike of leak, anything, it will bubble. It'll bubble instantly, and you'll start seeing little bubbles start bubbling up and stuff like that. That's how I do it. Because when the whole thing is sealed, I'll pressurize it. I'll spray the soapy water everywhere, no bubbles, and then I'll let the air out. And if I feel as much air pushes out as I put in, I know the system is sealed. But if I pressurize it and I feel like, and I let the chuck off and only a little, that means something's leaking out. 9 times out of 10, something somewhere's leaking out. So
a weld or something.
Yeah, or throttle body.
Yeah.
Or intake manifold.
Yeah, clamp or something.
Yes. Oh, it's always the common areas, but that's something you want to make sure that's solid on a turbo car.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the compressor side, pressurize it. You could set up 2 different ways. You could do a close off valve. Some people use like the tire chuck, like how you have on your truck or your car, and put it like that, and then you can release the pressure, and you can put a gauge. Some come with gauges, so you can see where it starts and how slow it falls down. Or when you pressurize it, it'll build up and it'll fall down like that. And I don't cap off anything. I'll just go through and I'll make sure the throttle body's all the way closed, and I'll just kind of go through from the turbo side, even from the turbo, behind the turbo, because there's an O-ring on there. I'll start from there. I'll hit the wastegates, intercooler pipings, intercooler, the intercooler core, and then I'll go through all things, the throttle body, injector O-rings, and I'll just work it all the way. And if everything is sealed, then I'll take it off and continue on. But if I have to do it, that means there's a problem I found.
Yeah.
Or I felt it, or it's surging, and I can't control the surge because this is leaking somewhere.
Yeah. I think that was wrong with my truck.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm thinking about it. Like the more you keep talking about it, the more I'm like, damn.
Now it's different if it's twin turbo. If it's twin turbo,
Single.
If it's twin turbo vehicle, then you cap off one turbo, and put the tester on one,
Gotcha.
and you pressurize it and go through the whole thing soapy water.
Yeah.
And then after you check that, swap it. Cap the other side, put the pressurizer, press the compress test on that other side, and do the same thing again, and check it.
What is something that's maybe just like a no, like you don't touch the car, or is that very rare?
Automatically, if I get into a car, and I feel like if I get into a car, someone brings me a car and the car is already like overheating at idle, and I bled the coolant system, and the car's still overheating, or it's smoking like crazy, it could be a bad motor, it could be a bad turbo, it could be leaky.
What about catch can smoking crazy?
That too, smoking like crazy. That too. But sometimes, a built, depending on how the car's built,
Yeah.
That's for the catch can. So like if it doesn't look healthy, if it don't sound healthy, you'll know if an engine sounds healthy.
Yeah.
Regardless if it's a bad tune or not. Like I could kind of tell, like, okay, I can clean that up. But you could kind of tell looking at it if, like, this may be a ticking bomb. So like I don't wanna play hot potato.
Yeah. What about the bird's nest?
The bird's nest.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like wires off.
Oh,
fucking
I've
janky.
had that a couple times,
Bro, if I was a tuner, I would not touch that shit.
I had that a few times, but it depends on depending on what those wires are controlling. So if it's like a bird's nest on the fuel pump,
Yeah.
okay, then we're gonna have to revisit that. If it's like a bird's nest on, I don't know, some random stuff that they wired up themselves, and I feel like I would look at voltage, because I always set up parameters the monitor voltage on a car. Because if voltage starts dropping, then everything else can start going to shit.
Yeah.
But I kind of work around it a little bit, depending on how bad it is. That's not going to be the deciding factor for me to be like, what, hell no. So, but I would expect them to clean it up. Like I give customers, after they tune with me, I'll give them a checklist. I'll either text it to them or send it to them on social media, like, okay, after these are the things I want you to fix, and I'll include that, clean up that wiring in there as well.
What about do you ever send them a message about before you bring your car, make sure this is done? You ever send?
Yeah, always.
What is that?
I always tell them to go through a few things. I have a little list. Same thing for remote tune customers. I'll have them go through a little list.
What's the list?
Me personally, simple stuff. You make sure your car, no leaks. Make sure you bleed your coolant system. Make sure you do a boost leak test to this particular pressure. Make sure you get your spark plugs. If they're coming here, bring your spark plugs. Don't gap them. I'll gap them. But if it's remote tune, then I'll tell them what the gap I wanted to be at for tuning wise. Because sometimes you could still gap you could gap a spark plug wrong and have it break up.
Yeah.
While you're driving it. So like, if I can do it, I'll do it, and whatnot. And just minor things. And as long as those things check out right, engine sounds healthy. If it's a remote tune, I always say provide me a compression test now, because I've had a couple guys remote tune and I got a compression reading from one of them before I begun, and all 4 cylinders read 100 or 90, and I didn't know that. So now I tell everybody provide me a compression test, a check, so I can see that. So this way, if I know if I want to do it, if I need them to revisit something, if they need to redo something themselves, or something don't seem right, or whatever, or maybe the rings ain't seated up all the way. Basic things, for that. But if you could check all that stuff off, I can handle the rest on tuning.
And I know, so right now you say you do remote tuning. Do you prefer remote or do you prefer in person? And why?
I like both, to be honest with you. I do a lot of remote stuff.
Right.
A lot of remote stuff but I also love to do the in-person stuff because I also want to feel the car. Like I get excited. I get excited with the customer getting excited. So when the car makes power, and I look in the back window and they see the screen and they're all jumping for joy. Like I feel good for the customer, you know. And it like or it comes in running kind of rough, and then all of a sudden they're like, man, now you got it running good. It's idling way better. AC on and off. It's driving smooth. We make a street hit. Their facial expression, everything is like, you know, I like to encounter that. You know, I like to see that emotion on them. But at the same time, you know, I love doing remote stuff. I'm able to grow my audience everywhere. You know, I have a big remote customer base. So, you know, and I like to, don't want to be limited to just Florida.
Exactly.
So like I like to dabble with everything in other countries and states. And, you know, sometimes the time difference is rough. Yeah, I have people in Hawaii, Germany, Japan. So when it's morning for me, it's night for them, or vice versa. And I have to like, you know, I'm tend to be more flexible because it's not their fault that the time zone or whatever like that. So I'm more flexible for them for if I want to stay up late, because that's morning for them, normal hours for them. Or if I want to wake up really, really early because now the sun's going down for them, and, you know, and accommodate them on that. So it's a little more flexible there, but I like both.
Damn, that's badass.
Yeah, I like both. But the thing is about that, the remote tuning part is being good at remote tuning, you really have to know how an engine performs. You really have to know how it runs. You really have to know how certain things affect other things, because you're not there hearing it, you're not there feeling it, you're not there in person to diagnose it. So you have to know, based off the readings you're getting, the data you're getting, you have to really know that rhythm of what's causing the issue or what's going on before anything. Because if a customer does a run, stock computer, they don't got no fuel pressure sensor, they don't got no fuel pressure regulator, they don't got nothing, and I'm like, bro, I can tell you right now, this car is dropping fuel pressure. You know, I would know, you know, just by the rhythm of how it's going or the trace of the AFR or whatever like that. And then sure enough, they'll hook up a regulator with a gauge, and they'll run a gauge inside the car, and, you know, they'll try to do a little test hit, and the fuel pressure go like this, and it'll start falling. And they'll know. I'm like, yeah, pull your pumps out and let's see what's going on. And sure enough, they were like, okay, we fixed the problem. Now the car's building fuel pressure. You know, so you have to know. And then they would ask me, like, Miro, how did you know that? You had no gauge, you had nothing on it. You really have to know how an engine performs.
You're not even here. You're in somewhere else.
Yeah, you're not even here.
You're
not even here. And it's even worse when it's a language barrier. I've remote tuned for people who spoke Spanish. I just had to go on Google Translate.
Really?
Yeah. Send it to them. They send it to me. I'll go back and translate. And send it back to them. They send it to me. And
you're like, man, this guy speaks proper Spanish.
But they know I don't speak. And they know I don't speak Spanish. They don't speak English. It's all good, bro. We'll figure out something. We'll figure out something. You know. And I've done that, and that's pretty hard. I've had customers in Pakistan. I have customers in Japan, and it's like, I'll go on Google Translate. And I'll say what I have to do, or if they have a buddy that kind of understands a little bit of English, then cool, that's even better.
Shout out to Google Translate, man.
Yeah, you have to, man. I love it. I don't have no limitations, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
No limitations. You know, I'll just tell them, like, okay, we're gonna do it from this. I already give them the breakdown how we're gonna make hits, how we're gonna operate, what RPM point we're gonna go up to, when we're gonna let off, what AFR tracing we're looking for, then we're gonna let off. Then I'll tell them all that stuff. This way, there's no confusion. They already know what needs to do, and if they have a little concern, they'll write me, or maybe they already did the translate and put it in English for me, and that's that.
Yeah. Do you think a good tuner could tune any vehicle if they wanted to?
Yeah, I think so.
Or do you what do you think about the tuners who are just specific on that one platform? You know.
Well, a good tuner can tune every vehicle, but at the same time, it's not gonna know where to maximize everything. That's the difference. So if you get a guy who does Hondas, and Honda tuners, you know, they may have a way of tuning certain things, a boost, timing, but then you get someone who does, I don't know, BMW stuff. or the Evo stuff or the 2J stuff. The guys who do those particular, they really know where they need to be at for timing, where they need to be at for, these cars like to run a little bit more leaner, a little bit more richer, whatever like that. The newer BMW stuff, when I was tuning a few of them, I was doing AFR target at 11.5. In their world, that's crazy rich.
Yeah.
That's like, we need to lean it out some. 11.9, 12.0.
Yeah.
So it's like they'll be able to tune it, but to maximize it at its full potential, that's where it comes into play. Tuning is tuning in a way if you're really good at it, and if you understand the ECU and the software.
Yeah.
But over everything else, it would be the same. It's just, you know what it takes to maximize that particular vehicle.
Yeah. What about the fuel? What is there like a certain fuel do you prefer to run? 93, 85, E50, 30?
No matter, whatever customer brings in.
Okay.
I don't care what fuel it is. You want to tune on pump gas? Cool. You want to tune on E85? Cool.
Yeah.
You want to bring your VP stuff, whatever it is? Cool. I've had people in here, I think it was on methanol, and that was potent. Like I had to bring my hub dynos out. I had a mask on.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had a mask on, or like my eyes were just burning, and like my nose got a little sniff of it, and it was killer. That was the most rough session ever. It was actually on a Fox body.
Real session.
I was on a Fox body, and that was like my eyes were just burning. Like I couldn't even be in the shop long. I had to constantly head out the shop, and maybe I didn't have enough fans or something like that. But it don't matter what fuel you're on.
Yeah.
If you want, just make sure you're on the right fuel for the right power you want to make. Because like just yesterday, I had a customer call me. Yeah, I want to tune my 2J car. It's fully built, blah blah blah. But I want to hold off on E85. I want to run it on pump gas, and we want to try to get close to about 700 on pump. And I was like, bro, why? Why? Well, no, we're not gonna do that.
Why?
I feel like you don't need to go that spicy for pump gas. 600 all day long, not a problem. But if you're trying to get to 7 range, why? When we could just make sure you have the right fuel lines, fuel pump, injectors, the right fuel system, and then put E85 in it and make that power, first of all, less effort and safer as well. So there's no point of trying to reach it on pump gas when you can make it a lot safer, easier probably on E85.
Yeah, because the reason why I ask is because maybe there's tuners out there that, hey, if you bring me your car, make sure it's on E85, fully E85, right? Or 93, fully 93.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bring E-blends,
Yeah, I do. I can hear that. So when people reach out to me, when they want to do flex fuel, or sometimes dual map in the Evo world,
right,
then I'll be like, okay, bring it on full 93. Or if it's remote, if it's only 91 in that area, bring it on that pump gas, tune on that pump gas, full, whatever it is. Then after it's fully tuned on that, we'll drain that out. Then we put the good quality ethanol in there, make sure it's tested. I think anything higher than 70 is decent. Higher the better. Here in Florida, we're typically 83, 85 ethanol reading.
Damn.
So it's bring it on that, and we'll tune it on the 93, tune on the 85, and on the 85, and we'll blend it in between. And this way, the ECU would know both in itself. I'm not sitting there having 93. I'm gonna pour a little bit of E85 to get to this ratio, and that's too much. Let me pour a little bit more 93 back in there to get back to that ratio. I'm not doing all that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing all that.
No.
It's too weird, too sticky.
Yeah.
It's too weird because if their blend is off a little bit, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Tune it on one fuel fully, and if it's for that particular one. But if you want to do flex, then get the E85 and tune it on that fuel fully. And the ECU would know how to blend in between.
Gotcha.
For where you are for your ethanol reading.
And as a tuner, and I'm gonna go back to the Evo because could you say you have the most experience in that?
Yeah, for me, I have a lot of experience on Evos.
So what plugs do you recommend?
It depends. I always recommend colder plugs. Colder plugs, I always recommend.
As far as the manufacturer.
Oh, NGKs.
Okay.
Yeah, NGKs. A lot of other plugs create a lot of noise. NGKs are good, are good in that area, and like I love those. You know, on the Evo 8s and I think 10s, not Evo 8s, Evo 9s and 10s, they have the Denzos as well for colder. But for typical car I tune, even if it's Evo, whatever like that, or no matter if it's other brands, I'm always NGK. I'm always NGK.
Not really the brisk. I know a lot of people run brisk plugs. And, Yeah. Too much noise.
No, I have some people come in with some championship plugs. They come in with some we couldn't get the NGKs in time, but we need to get tuned. But we bought these championship plugs, and I was like, bro, I'm not tuning on that.
Bro, that's for my lawnmower now.
I'm not tuning on that. I'd rather tune on what you got, what you came in on before I even throw in some championship plugs. Because if something happens and it's a cheap plug and the tip break off or the tip falls off or
That's
whatever
Dunskies.
weird, I'm not putting myself in that situation, nor you as a customer.
Yeah.
So like, if the right plug didn't come in, then it's okay. Let's reschedule for next week, and let's do it with the right stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a rush to tune.
Yeah, that's true. To build an 800, 900 horsepower Evo, can you talk about like what somebody would need to do to their car?
Definitely back to what we said, building the motor.
Yeah.
Building, I'm not saying overbuild it, but build it strong enough.
Right. I-beams,
yeah.
because that's what you said.
Yeah, build it strong enough. Make sure you have a good fuel system. I feel like that's always the deciding factor. The fuel system, people always lack on. They always go with, either a cheaper injector, a cheaper double pumper setup, a cheaper fuel hanger setup. They want to reuse the factory lines. Just do the fuel system right. Every car has fuel pressure issues. It's just not as noticeable.
Right.
Until it's noticeable. So like, just build it good double pumper setup, good fuel pumps, real pumps. Buy your parts from real people. Don't go on Amazon.
Not eBay.
Don't go on Amazon trying to buy these Walbro pumps that are just fake pumps.
Yeah.
A good fuel system. That's the first thing I will always say.
Not the cheap Japanese Bosch injectors.
No,
And
not those stuff, bro.
knockoffs.
And the crazy thing is, there's a lot of people in the world that always say, "Oh, these injectors are the same." They're the same. They're not the same. They're not the same. You don't
tested them?
I have on my test. I also clean injectors. I test the spray quality, the flow. It's not the same. How it automizes. Yeah, it's not the same.
The spray pattern.
Yeah, all of that. That makes a difference in the idle quality.
Yep.
Cold start. It makes a huge difference in all that. It's not the same. So I would probably just buy a good quality injector.
Which is
There's a few brands out there. Everybody can do their research on that.
yeah.
Try to corner me in that one. There's a few brands out there. Just buy a good injector, buy a good fuel system. This way you don't never have to worry about that. And also the main thing I feel like a lot of people always slack on is buying a good fuel pressure regulator. Everybody in the Evo world, everybody always buys these mini little fuel pressure regulators. They're small little things. And they always develop some problems.
Why?
Always. I don't know why. Because a lot of other companies, they do a package deal.
Oh.
They'll sell you these injectors, this little mini regulator, and like a line kit. $300, $400, and it's really cheap. So everybody buys into cheap. Because it's, I don't do that. Just buy a good regulator, full size one, so the car can build good fuel pressure. You want your car to build good fuel pressure. And after that, a good turbo system. Like when it comes to turbo stuff, like I don't even want to talk cheap. I don't even want to talk cheap. Like if you have something cheap on there, I'm gonna say it. I'm like, bro, like just cheap quality parts, a knockoff gate,
Okay.
knockoff blow-off valve, knockoff manifold. Knockoff manifold may have a bad wastegate placement. So the car is over boosting, or it's boost creeping, or even like the merge collector. all of that,
Welds could be cheap.
The welds could be cheap, just buy good stuff like one and done. You spend 10 times more money when you have to buy something cheap and then buy something good later.
That's true.
When you could have just bought it good one and done.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a rush to build something quick.
Yeah.
So my buddy made that on this same setup, so I could do it too. That's how it always has.
Yeah.
My buddy made it on those, knockoff injectors. I could do it too.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everyone's on knockoff parts. So it's just like, just buy good quality stuff, good turbo brand. Not all turbos are the same. Not all turbos spool the same. Not all turbos carry the same power, carry the same power band. Not all turbos are the same. So do your research on that too.
Do your research on
that too.
What do you recommend?
Do your research on that too. So some turbos spool later than others. Some turbos spool faster than others.
Yeah.
So, I love a fast spooling turbo.
Yeah.
I think
Off
that's
the rip.
off the rip. Now on a built setup.
Yeah.
On a stock setup, then I don't care. I want it to feel decent, but I'm not gonna let it hit hard anyway. But if you come through on a built setup, yeah, you definitely want a good turbo system on that. Good turbo system, good manifold, good wastegate placement. Deciding on how much horsepower you want. If you want to go T3, T4, V-band manifold, all that. So I'm building a new car. So the car I'm building right now is the purpose of that. So I'm talking with a lot of manufacturers, a lot of companies, and I'm gonna put together this car, and I'm gonna use it as like a test mule. I'm gonna have different turbos, and I'm gonna test them back to back on the same day. So I'm gonna already have a certain turbo on there, and I'm already have an intercooler pipe already prefabbed for that turbo.
Gotcha.
Or another turbo intercooler pipe already prefabbed for that turbo. And then I'm gonna just take it off, put another one on, and test it out.
What companies?
I'm gonna do Precision for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna test out some FP Exona rotor stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Tyler, Art Gennari, his stuff. Some Garrett stuff. Just a lot of the stuff that people usually go for, but they're not making like back-to-back results on. Yeah. There's always some he say, she say stuff like, oh, go with this turbo. Why? I made this much, and this is what the market's doing.
Yeah.
Go with this turbo. Why? Because this turbo lasts longer. It ain't blowing up. My wheel is still inside my turbo. Blah blah blah. So like, I'm gonna use that test mule. I want to test all this stuff back to back to back, just for the community.
Yeah.
And then same thing with parts, different camshaft, different intercooler piping sizes, different intake manifolds. I'm gonna just tune it, see what it makes, take it off same day, put the new stuff on, same session, and run it, and then just overlay all the graphs on there and kind of just I'll go over everything like I do for a customer.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So, and then they can make their own deciding choice of what they want to go with.
So what else to make the 8 to 900? Because you talked about fuel system, then you started getting to fuel pressure regulator.
Yep.
And
a good camshaft. A good camshaft. A lot of the evil stuff, a lot of evil boys and girls in the market. I run GSE stuff a lot. I love how GSE sounds. There's other brands out there. Not saying they don't make power too. But I use a lot of GSE stuff. I've tested a lot of GSE stuff.
We got one manufacturer out of him, right? Just letting y'all know. He said it.
Yeah. So, but I don't knock anybody. Everybody can make good quality stuff, But on the average, I do a lot of GSE stuff, so I know what's proven. Yeah. I'm the kind of person, once I have a recipe, I just redo the recipe. Yeah. Unless something new comes out, then you test it. Yeah. Exactly. So, but then that's another thing there too. I'll be testing out different stuff. But a good cam, depending on if it's gonna be a street car, depending if it's gonna be like a street and strip car, depending on how big your turbo for the cam size, that plays a factor in there too. Just minor things like that. It don't take that. It's not hard to get 800 or 800 plus out of an Evo. If you have a built setup, you have enough fuel system, enough turbo, everything stay together. Obviously, you need strong enough clutch for the power you're gonna make.
Right.
And drivetrain's pretty strong enough from factory. If it's a 5-speed, I think it's not that hard.
What does that run
For
for that power? 800 to 900. Price wise.
you probably be, I would say, if you spend a solid
2500.
25,000.
Yeah.
25,000. But the price would determine if you're doing it yourself or if a shop's doing it for you.
Yeah.
That's also another thing you have to factor in too.
So with that 25,000, that's parts or that's parts and labor?
No, that might just be parts. Labor, is whatever that particular shop,
Yeah.
you're paying for. Sometimes you're paying for that shop's name.
Yeah.
So
I think the real question is like, who is it fucking up on the streets at 800 to 900?
who is it fucking up?
Yeah. On the streets.
It can fuck up a lot. To be honest with you, I feel like a really strong Evo is hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
I don't care. I feel like a really, really strong, powerful Evo is hard to keep up with, Whether it's from a roll, whatever gear you want to hit it from, it's strong. And don't even let me get you on talking about sequential trans on top of that. So if you even if you add that spice to the mix, like it's hard.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's GTR, I don't care if it's Lambo, I don't care if it's Viper. Don't get me wrong, those guys have strong miles per hour, but on an average street car, light to light, road to road, whatever like that, or cruise on the highway, and y'all both downshift and hit it, a strong Evo is hard to keep up with.
Really?
Yeah.
Like power wise, like when you say strong Evo.
Yeah, I think
What do you think about
anything, a strong Evo could be anything higher than 850.
Okay.
850, 900. To me, that's a strong Evo.
Yeah.
That feels damn good. Damn good.
I want to see one crab walk. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, damn good. It's sketchy.
Yeah.
It's sketchy.
I seen GTR's crab walk. I never seen a Evo crab walk.
Yeah, it's sketchy. You see them at the track.
Damn.
Yeah, it's sketchy. That's how, depending on how they launch.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything like that.
Ooh.
You can have, depending on how fast that turbo lights up on the street, for a car, hanging with them and whatnot. But I think a really good Evo, nicely set up, nicely dialed in tune, it's gonna ride out. It's gonna hit.
Yeah.
It's gonna hit. I'm not saying it's the fastest, but I'll tell you damn sure it's hard to keep up with it.
It put up a fight for sure.
It put up a fight.
Yeah.
For sure.
Damn. Would you advise someone to go to tuning school to learn tuning?
I would. I feel like you have to know a little bit about tuning, a little bit about engines, how it works, fuel injection. I feel like you need to learn a little bit more on that before attending a tuning course. A lot of people, as soon as they want to tune or learn to tune or however you want, they go strictly to tuning, and then they go to these courses and these classes and they get overwhelmed. And now it's like a funnel of information that only so much you can intake. Because after you can't intake the rest of the information that you don't know and it's all new to you, you're not even really hearing the rest of it. It's blocking out. So your best bet is to kind of start getting familiarized maybe with your own personal car or a buddy or however or a little project car you put together. Understand that a little bit, and then when you go to a tuning course or a class, then you can ask the questions of the things that you was struggling with, the things that it was difficult when you was trying to mess around with the fuel and timing or boost. You could ask those particular questions, and the things that they talk about in class, it makes it a lot easier to understand because you somewhat start having a little real world experience. A lot of people who try to go to tuning schools, they don't have real world experience. So they're trying to just dive right in just cause it's overwhelming. They finish the course and they never pick up another laptop to tune at all.
Yeah.
They just have the certificate. So because it's overwhelming and they if it gets too overwhelming, then they kind of just throw their hands back like, this is too much for me. So just have your own project and learn a little bit more about how everything operates, and then you go to the course and then you have a better understanding and you can ask better questions and have a better scope.
So how would somebody learn how to tune if let's say they didn't have a school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you advise them to reach out to a tuner?
Yeah, you messing with murky water with that one. There's some people who, they're very open with that. There's some people who aren't. There's some people. A good tuner is very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very, very busy. Like, if I have free time in my day, it's because I had to force myself to have free time with my kids, this and that. So it's like, if there's no school or training of like that, then you can ask to reach out to people, and and just be mindful with your questions, because that particular tuner has 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and then it's not trying to just dump it on your lap. If you have one particular question, no problem. That's a lot more easier or more understanding from a tuner's perspective to answer a simple question than like you trying to open up the whole tuning book gateway. Like, okay, tell me everything you know. It's like a lot of people don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Even though you work all day, but then you have families, and then like you don't have time for that. So you also have to do your own due diligence. And you have to trial and error. Like I said it before, you're not gonna learn until you fail.
Yeah.
Or you run into a roadblock, and then you get yourself out of that roadblock, and then you're like, oh, that's what I did wrong. Oh, that's what needs to get adjusted or fixed and whatnot. But there is never no tuning school. There's schools everywhere.
No.
There's people everywhere. There's been like that for a long time. There's many schools to go to. You just got to know which ones and what's a good one. Yeah, EFI University was one. I think that might be the oldest running school they had. Ben, I took that many years ago, and when I first started, like a long time ago. But that was more, that was real introduction. He had like three levels of courses. I took all of them, one shot, all the way in Arizona. But I also took, I also been hands-on in my learning and my come up, and I've also took courses. Like I said, you don't want to go to someone who's a mentor or a course and only learn it one way. Because I've been there. I've been to like the advanced stuff for Holly. I've been to Fuel Tech USA. I've been to like stock ECU tuning, but not for the Evo stuff. Like stock stuff for like I guess you would say like exotic cars, like Lambos, McLarens, Porsches, like tuning like their factory ECU. I've been there, so like everybody has their own approach, and you just kind of just pull all the greatness out of all the information you're getting, and you create your own formula. So it's all trial and error. Yeah. It's all trial and error. Nobody has the best way.
Yeah.
The best way is whatever works for that car, that day, that moment.
What's his name gonna have he said he was gonna start some classes soon for Motec. Chris
who?
Delgado.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. He's knowledgeable. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Who knows? I might take that.
Put it in the other stack, right?
Yeah. I have a lot of certifications.
Yeah.
I have a lot. They're all on my website. Just so when anybody who works with me, they also know that I'm qualified. I know what I'm talking about. Whether it's problem solving or whatever. But yeah, it never hurts to get learn more. Yeah. There's always someone above you that knows more, and it's always like I'm always above someone else that knows more, and there's someone above me that knows more, and then someone above that person that knows more. Yeah. There's always someone, above. Yeah. But you just got to keep on learning all the time. I never stop learning because there's always a new ECU coming out, or not new ECU, a new functions, new updates, new settings. New all this stuff. Like there's so much new stuff that always comes out, and you just need to continuously learning. If you don't learn the new stuff, you're just gonna get left behind.
Yeah, that's true. You don't adapt or nothing.
Yeah, you don't adapt. You stay old school ways. You'll stick to old school methods.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm sure they've seen it because this camera's picking it up real good, but we're on an all-wheel drive dyno. You have a mainline dyno. You have the all-wheel drive dyno. You have a tornado blower right there.
That's the mainline dyno fan.
The big daddy.
Yeah.
And so we know that one costs a pretty penny.
Yeah. They all cost a pretty penny, bro. They all cost money, man. Yeah. It's not like any dyno you get, it's not chump change.
Yeah.
Because all these dyno companies, they know that you're gonna use these dynos to make more money.
Yeah.
So why would they give it to you for cheap when they know that you're about to make more than what the dyno costs?
Yeah.
Whatever like that. So they all cost money.
Yeah.
You know? So
the main question is, from the hub dyno and the all-wheel drive dyno, right? What are the pros and cons of both dynos?
The pros of the hub dyno is it'll take whatever you throw at it. I don't have to worry about strapping down. I don't have to worry about. I have had a customer come through with his fully built big turbo S2000, and as soon as he got here, he's like, "Bro, I didn't come with a dyno tire, man. I forgot." And then I was like, "Don't worry about it. I was gonna set you up on this anyway." I knew it was gonna be a built turbo S2000. I wasn't gonna put it on my regular chassis dyno.
Yeah.
I was gonna put it on that. You know, and we finished them right around like 800 on the hubs, and that's the pros of that. It'll take whatever I want at it, and that dyno is smart. It's really smart. Like if I tell it to do a 6-second run, it already knows how to hold the load while I'm accelerate for a 6-second run.
Wow.
It already automatically knows what it needs to do to hold it for that time I started to the end, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Or however, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, however I want, 10 seconds. It knows it already. The downfall of that is the setup time.
Yeah.
That's it. I gotta jack the car up, gotta take the wheels off, I gotta put the adapters on, I got to, torque the lug nuts down, line the dyno up, bolt the dyno, put the arm in there, put the power to it, and it's way more setup time.
Yeah.
So, and that right there could be a downfall if you're constantly busy, constantly busy. But if you're doing a lot of like high horsepower cars or pro mod cars or anything like that, then you need a dyno like that. You need a hub dyno.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be in a situation and regular tires and tire pop, straps. You ain't got nobody to stand in the door jams. You got nobody to stand in the trunk. You got no weight for more traction. Or sometimes your car can spin on a regular chassis dyno, spin the rollers and wheel spin. On my chassis dyno, like this one we're on right now, for the most average cars I do, Evo's coming in anywhere between 450 to 900 or so. I roll on, I can strap it down in like 5 minutes and be set up from front to back, strapped down in 5 minutes. And put my dyno fan in the back to pull the fumes out, a fan in the front, blow on it, and then I'll go in there and just make sure everything is nice and straight. But like if you're doing a bunch of cars, the same kind of cars, repetitive, like every single day, it makes it easier to have a chassis. The downfall of that is it takes up more room. But here at my shop, all I do is tune.
Yeah.
So I don't have lifts. I don't have anything else where I need that room because I'm losing money by not having a lift there or storage or anything like that. No cars stay here. So it's just I'm able to roll on, do what I gotta do, roll off. I don't gotta worry about the brake. After I'm done tuning, I gotta put the same amount of time in breakdown on the hubs, and then break that down, put the wheels back on, torque that back down, put the car back down in the air, back it out, put the dynos away to the side. I don't gotta worry about all that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to have both because just like how any car comes through the door on an ECU, any car can come through the door on different power levels.
Right.
So I think next week, we have a big turbo LS, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull off the hubs on it. I'm not gonna put it on this because I don't wanna, if I run into traction control issues or traction issues, or if the car doesn't hook properly, I don't have to worry about it. I'll just put it on that and I just worry about tuning.
Yeah.
I don't gotta worry about the setup or the power control or anything like that.
Right.
So they both have pros and cons. That's why I got both. So so I can have, like, I don't gotta worry about, man, I really don't want to set up, put all that time in setup and put all that time in breakdown. I just roll it on this, just do what I gotta do, back it off.
Can you speak up on, like, why don't you keep cars here overnight? Because I know we talked about it on the phone, and
Yeah.
you said that they come in the same day, they leave the same day.
Yeah, I don't keep cars. They come in, but I make sure, like I tell you, you go through the checklist, make sure everything's ready, make sure everything is ready for tuning, and we'll go through everything. It's just, I don't like when, customers feel like they have to always call, like, hey man, my car gonna be ready this time. Hey man, you promised me to be ready Friday, can I pick it up? Hey man, did you install that part? Hey man, I don't like that.
Yeah.
When I tune your car, I close my doors, like you have your car back in your possession. You come in with your car that day, you leave with your car that day. And I don't put a clock on anybody. I'll tune a car however long it takes. Within the realm of it's going smoothly.
Yeah.
If I know it's not going smoothly, then okay, we gotta call it quits. Something's wrong with this car. But if it's going smoothly, I'll do whatever, however long I need to work for it, and then they take it back that same day.
Yeah.
Customers like that. They don't really like the idea of leaving their car here, dropping it off, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of reputable places and shops, but a lot of customers also been burned where, they're missing this item, they're missing that item, or they're constantly calling, hey man, can I pick up my car at this time? You promised me it would be ready. I don't want to let nobody down like that. Yeah. So I just come in, I schedule in the morning, I work hard, knock it out, and just, they leave it the same day.
What is it? What do you charge to tune?
That varies.
Okay.
It just depends by the setup, bro. It's not. I don't do it by hour. I do it by like a set rate. When you already know the setup, the kind of car, brand, ECU, you kind of, as long as everything goes smoothly, you kind of ballpark how long it kind of take, And I give them like a set rate. This way, you're paying for the expertise, and it's also, you're not sitting there in the waiting couch biting your nails like, man, it's taking kind of long. My tab's running up.
Yeah.
Or man, why is he taking so long to review the plugs? My time is running up. I don't like people. I want the people to come here in a relaxed environment, and the price would be a set rate, and depending on how much work gets put into it. A car that comes through on stock computer is not the same car. It's not the same price for a car that comes through on a Fuel Tech, and you have to set up all the inputs and outputs. You have to set up all the sensors. You got to dial in all that stuff and allocate all that stuff in the ECU. It's more time involved. So depending on that, or a car that wants to come in, hey, I don't even want to make 500-600 horsepower, or I want to make 850-900 horsepower, and more time is going to get put into that. There's a lot more time because I'm going to be definitely more cautious as I'm going up in power and boost, and then checking plugs, because I said that's also in my time as well. And so it's not like a particular like, oh, that for all, that's for all.
Yeah.
So it depends on the setup and the application you have.
Okay. So let's say Evo 8, 800 horsepower on Fuel Tech, what does that charge?
It depends. It just depends.
Okay.
It depends. Depends on.
You don't have pricing like on your website or nothing, right?
No, because it's by, I don't have it like that, because it depends on what you want me to do for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they come in and be like, hey bro, I want you to tune it, but I also want you to put the boost controller on it. I want you to do that, or I don't usually want to fix and wrench on their cars, but if I have to continue doing what I'm doing, then I'm like, okay, I can fix this, I'll adjust this, and they're like, whatever, bro, whatever it costs, let's just want to get my car running right, and then we just do it from there. But it's like, the pricing is depending on, when I talk with the customer, he tells me how much work I need to do, or how much stuff I have to set up, or how much stuff I have to diagnose, or whatever, or if I already know it's coming through, car never ran, car never started, or it came from 4 of the shops, or how much work I get put into it.
What about a swap car? That's even more, right?
No, it's just all the same. It's all the same. I've done cars, and to be honest with you, it sounds crazy because we mentioned Hyundai. I've done a 4G63 swap in a Hyundai, you know, so like, but I tune it like an Evo, so it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? I'll tune it just the same exact way because it's a 4G63 from the Evo, and it's just in a different chassis.
Yeah.
It didn't matter to me, but it was front wheel drive. But, you know, it won't matter if it's a swap, you know, as long as the swap is clean.
Yeah.
You know, as long as the swap is clean, then I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, that's true. Cause I think it's like, if the swap is not clean, you might have run into more issues, right?
Yeah, you know, or I had guys come through with they swap certain engines into like buggies. What is it called? What are those things called? Those sandstorms or sand something that you ride in the deserts?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I forgot what those things are called.
Samurais?
No, I don't think it's that. Not those little Jeeps.
Oh,
those two are swap vehicles too, heavy. But it's like a little buggy where you know they ride it in like Arizona and they
Razors and Can-Ams.
I forgot the name of what they're called, but I've done a few of those here, and as long as the wiring's good, the engine sounds clean and operating, and it was a motor out of the S2000 put in there. It don't matter. Tune it the same exact way. Same exact way. It won't matter as long as it swaps clean. I've had guys come through with their airboats in the parking lot.
Damn.
Yeah, in the parking lot because the car it just didn't feel right, and then they wanted me to go through the calibration, go through the tune, and just see what's going on, and I'll fire it up in the parking lot and just kind of go through everything.
A fucking airboat.
An airboat. Crazy. Yeah.
So what's next? A plane?
You know, I just said it to somebody. I was like, you know what? I haven't done a plane. I haven't done a train. Trains are the same thing. To be honest with you, I went to a course that, like I told you, I did like the exotic cars for tuning, stuff like that. And the instructor told me, he's like, yeah, you know, he lives in like overseas, and he's like, you know, he gets hired by many train station companies, and they'll come through and diagnose the like reflash the file for them and whatnot, and tune those as well.
Damn.
So I don't know, because there's somebody here that does it, but nobody knows. It's not a common thing for it to be out there like that.
Yeah.
You know? Don't know.
That's pretty cool.
There's a market for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. What are your thoughts on the merger with Mitsubishi, Honda, and Nissan?
Man, that's a hard one. I feel like Mitsubishi's gonna get the bad stick on that. I feel like Mitsubishi's gonna get the bad stick on that. You know, they're gonna just, I don't know. I just hope, my thoughts is, if I cross fingers, I just hope they bring back the Mitsubishi Evo. I really feel like, you know.
Bro, what if they make an Evo? Sorry to cut you off. What if they make an Evo two-wheel drive or something? Like,
they wouldn't do that.
I'm just saying.
They wouldn't do that.
You're hoping they don't
wouldn't
do that.
They wouldn't do that. It was never.
What about like a Civic all-wheel drive K-Series?
Well, they already have that.
Yeah, I know, but
they don't. The K-Series is old now. It's old now. The K-Series era is already passed. So they have newer engines now and the newer stuff. So, you know, for the Honda stuff, the Honda's still making stuff.
Yeah.
They're still making stuff, and they have a lot of concept stuff of coming out still. Like I see the concept for the new S2000. I see the talks of the new Prelude. You know, they still got the NSX now that came back out.
Yep.
So like, and then the Type R stuff. They're still making performance stuff.
Yeah, cool shit.
You know, they're making stuff. Nissan, they're good too. They got the Skyline. They're riding the bank all the way on that Skyline. Yeah. That's it. They're riding that Skyline all the way. But Mitsubishi, I feel like Mitsubishi can really bounce back by just bringing back the cars that the consumers love. Bring back the Mitsubishi Evo.
The Samurai.
Bring back the 3000 GT.
Yeah.
Bring back the Eclipse. They bring back those three in good forms, all turbocharged, all all-wheel drive, in good body forms, good looking cars. Yeah. Then those three right there, I feel like it would bring back the name Mitsubishi.
I feel like they're gonna bring it back EV Eclipse.
I don't know. You know? But the thing is, I don't know, it's just they could bounce back.
Yeah.
They really can. You know, they just choose to, because they still sell cars.
Yeah.
The dealership's still around. They still sell cars. but they selling all the cars that nobody wants. You know, they're selling like a lot of these budget crossover SUVs.
Crossover, yeah.
But they could just bring back that Mitsubishi Evo, Eclipse, or 3000 GT. They would be in the game.
Do you think they'll bring back the 3000 GT?
A lot of people want it.
Bro, that's crazy.
A lot of people want it. I don't know why, but a lot of people want it. They want it though. They want that so bad.
They're probably gonna say, we're gonna bring back one car. All right, the Evo. Nah.
Yeah, that's what they need to bring back. If they bring back one car, it has to be the Evo.
Yeah.
That's the flagship.
Yeah.
That's the flagship car right there. Is the Evo.
That's true.
That's it.
Hey,
you know. Me personally. That's it right there for the Mitsubishi franchise.
Yeah.
They'll bring that back. But
Not the Samurai. I like the Samurai.
yeah. Well, nah, not my thing. Nah, not my thing. You know, they need to bring that back and still keep it, you know, gas powered. Still keep it turbocharged.
No hybrid shit.
Yeah, no hybrid stuff. Still keep it all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And make the body lines good.
Clean.
You know, make it good. You know, because look at Toyota. Toyota was in the similar boat. They went away from anything performance, anything powerful, anything performance, like new Toyota. They tried to touch base with the Scion stuff. Don't get me wrong, the Scion stuff actually worked for a little bit. 2006,
Not the box car, bro.
no, the TC.
Okay.
So it did shake up a little bit, because in that time, like a unique looking car was actually a cool thing to look at.
Yeah.
You know, so it did shake up a little bit, but it didn't stick long enough for it to stay. And then they came out with this. They had talks of the Supra. Everybody badmouths the Supra.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, oh, that Supra's gonna be trash. It's gonna be slow. It ain't gonna be like the real Supra. It ain't gonna be like this. It gonna be like that. Fast forward to today.
Yeah.
The same people who talk trash are not talking like that anymore, because now everybody sees what these B58s are really doing.
Yeah.
They're doing some numbers. Quarter mile, horsepower, dyno numbers. They're putting out like some serious power now.
Yeah.
And everybody's quiet. So Toyota went far left, and they came back, and they came back heavy now.
Yeah.
You know? And now I think they have talks about the Celica coming back too.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like Mitsubishi should come back. Don't know if they have the money for it. You know, that's the thing. I think that's where the deciding factor was, is they don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have to, like, today age, you know, cars is not built the same like how it was then. It's a lot more money.
Yeah.
You know? So like,
Way more electronics.
yeah. But maybe they may get some of that Nissan money.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe they might spread some of that.
That GTR
you know?
money.
We help build these cars. We want a profit of every car you sell.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
you're
know?
right.
That's better than not making anything.
Yeah.
Partial is better than nothing.
That's true.
So, but depending on how they look at it.
Yeah.
So,
we know I keep saying you're young because you are young, you know. But could you give advice on how to start a business, or maybe a tuning business, a shop, any automotive business?
yeah. I get that asked a lot. A lot. I feel like don't be such in a rush to jump into things. Everybody wants to jump into something and start something right now, but they don't never want to take the right steps of learning what they need to learn, building a good reputation, having a good name, taking care of the clientele. If you want to start something, learn your craft first, depending if you want to specialize in something. If you want to get an automotive business and you want to specialize in something, whether it's welding, wiring, tuning, learn your craft first before trying to open up a shop and you're trying to learn while you're trying to make a business, and it's like, it doesn't work that way. And if you do have your craft, also just make sure, the main thing I could tell you is to keep your overhead low. That is the key factor.
Yeah.
Because 1 month in business, sometimes you never know what you're gonna make. 1 month you may do really well, the next month you could be hurting.
Yeah.
If your overhead is crazy high, then it makes it hard to stay afloat if you can't afford to keep your doors open. That's the main thing. Everybody always wants to get into a shop and I want to do this, want to do that, want to do this, want to do that, and I want to have a massive shop. I want to have all these lifts. I want to do all that. But then you have all that, but then you also have to make enough money to upkeep that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if you have one bad month, you're already affected going into the next month.
Yeah.
You better hope that next month is going to be strong. If that next month is bad, then now you have 2 bad months going into to the next one after that. So sometimes you can start off slow and smaller space. It's affordable, so you kind of get your rhythm. You kind of know your market, kind of know what you could kind of afford, and you'll know by the time a year or 2 pass by, then you kind of know what you can afford a month and and whatnot. I'll tell you right now, if you're gonna get into the automotive industry, everyone always tell you to put everything on credit cards, put everything on credit, Don't do that. Don't put anything on credit. It's good to have credit. This way, if you need to buy something, then you have a line of credit. But everyone runs to put everything on credit. Because then when you first start off, you're not a cash cow. You're not making it like that. So you have to pay for your overhead. Your flow of customers coming in isn't as heavy as a seasoned company or a seasoned shop.
Right.
So make sure your overhead is low between your debt, your rent. Because if you do also have employees, then you also have to pay your employees. You never want to have an employee and then tell them, I can't afford to pay you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've been in that situation before where I worked for somebody a long time ago, and they straight up told me bro, I can't pay you this month.
Damn.
I can't pay you this week. And that's a shitty feeling. It's a shitty feeling because at the end of the day, every single month you're working and you're trusting the person who is the owner of this company to handle business and provide for you, because you're also trying to provide for your family or yourself. So just make sure you keep your overhead low and make sure you keep things affordable, because if you still got customers and employees and certain things you got to pay for, it racks up really fast. Really, really fast. Every single month it racks up. Because by the time you pay your bills on the first, the next first is coming around before you even think about it.
Yep.
So a lot of people, they jump in and they run up their tabs on buying lifts, buying dynos, paying for a big commercial space. I've seen so many shops buy big commercial space, and the next 2-3 years they're already moving.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to downsize, we're relocating. They're not relocating, they're downsizing because it's too much for them. It's too big for them. They're not bringing in for what they can handle. So to start off slower, like in the size of what you need to work with, because sometimes a smaller shop is perfect.
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about much. Your overhead's low, and you make a certain amount. You can pay whatever it costs, and pay your employees still, and your employees are happy. They're staying here with you, and your employees are making money for you. You're making money for the business, and then you can kind of grow into something a little bit more bigger. And then if that works out good for a few years, and if you could see the momentum, then you kind of grow into something a little bit more bigger. But don't just all of a sudden jump in and feel like, by the second year, you want a whole warehouse. Yeah. An Amazon warehouse of a performance shop, and then you can't handle it.
Yeah.
So, and it's just make sure that's important, because a lot of people don't talk on that. That's really important. That's the first step, is that. And just make sure you treat your customers right. Your customers, sometimes they're coming in from other shops that burn them. So they're already sketchy on trusting you. So you have to build that trust within them. They got to trust you. They've been mishandled. So you have to, be a little bit more patient. You may have to explain a lot more with that customer than an average customer who just got a car. They're excited. You don't got to explain as much, and they want to drop it off. And then some people may be more wary, like, hey, how much is this gonna cost? Okay, let me see the breakdown. Okay, what's the time frame on this? You say, all right, and they clocking you to the T, because they've been burnt. Yeah. But when you do right by them, and they see that and they feel that, then you kind of gain a customer for life that way. And then that one customer will speak highly of you forever. Yeah. And just gotta do right by them. You're never gonna have the perfect customer. There's no such thing as that. You will have ups and downs in business. You'll have people who talk great about you, people who talk bad about you. You will always have that. you know, but you just always have to keep working hard, keep moving forward. You know, I tell other people, those who are winning are focusing on winning. Those who are losing or not as busy, they're focusing on the winners. They're always focusing on someone who's doing better than them. So they may laugh, they may badmouth, they may trash talk some other people, but those who are winning, they're worrying about what's the next platform I'm gonna reach? What's the next car we're gonna get into? What's the next state we're gonna travel to? You know what I'm saying? They're working on stuff like that. They're continuously growing, thinking about growth at all times. You know, while those who aren't, they're staying in one place and they're just trash talking and bad mouthing and this and that. So you're gonna get that too in business. You know, you just gotta you gotta have hard skin, tough skin, because a lot of people are gonna love you, a lot of people are gonna hate you, and a lot of people are not gonna like you because other people like you.
Yeah.
And they wanna know why they like you, why you're so busy, why you're doing this, why you're doing that, why I'm not doing it, or whatever. Or some people, they have time in their day just to do that, just to talk like that.
Yeah.
But just be positive, you know, and just do right by your peoples and do right by your customers, your employees, and just be honest with yourself and honest with your people that you work with. And not even that, also a business to business relationship. Never feel like you need to snake anybody.
Yeah.
Take their clientele, go behind their back, hit them up on the low, like, hey, come work with us, we'll do better for you. Don't ever do it like that way. You will always get karma, you will always get burned that way. You will always lose them the way you got them.
Damn, yeah.
You will always do that. If they did that for somebody else to come to you, then you should be willing to expect they're able to do that to you to go to somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's like
that's real.
Yeah, that's real. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So you just gotta treat your customers right, do right by them, and also business to business. Because sometimes you do good business to business. That one customer that don't tune cars or that don't do fabrication or welding, they may need you to do a collaboration to come over, or they'll come over to you, however, and y'all may do a joint venture on a car together, and that's great. I can't tell you how many performance shops I've tuned for last year.
Yeah.
A lot. Within 3 months, I probably went to 7 states.
Damn.
Within 3 months. So like every weekend, I felt like I was like living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Fly in, chill, see my kids, fly out, go to another state. Fly in for the weekend, see my kids, fly out, go to another state. And all those places I was going to, those were all shops.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm going out there with individuals who just on the street or someone random. Those are all shops. So but you keep, you build a good relationship with them, and they build a good relationship with you, and you want to see them succeed. They want to see you succeed, and you keep growing together.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. Just doing right by other people and being honest.
Yeah. Those who stay together, win together.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I have if I work hard with you, you work hard with me, we eat together.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many shops, because I allocate a lot of work to a lot of shops because I'm too busy tuning.
Right.
So depending on what state you're in, if I have a certain shop I'm already working with that shop, and I do a lot of remote tunes, then I'll just be dishing you work, and you dishing me tunes,
Yeah.
and I'm dishing you work. The majority of all the work I dish you is probably gonna be more than tunes.
Yeah.
But that's just the respect level of the handshake agreement. I want to see you win, you want to see me win, and we win together.
Yeah.
It never worked out if I'm only watching you win and I'm just sitting there like, dang.
Yeah.
Or you always watch me win and you don't see nothing on your end. It's I want to see each other grow.
Right.
Mutual growth. Yeah. I don't need to make all the money in the world. I don't need to have every customer in the world. We could all win, and I could help. You provide for your family, and vice versa for me, and this and that, and we could all just win together. You know, I just say, and just in general, whether it's in person or social media, just always have a good positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
Always have a good positive attitude. You know, because today, tomorrow, nothing's promised.
Yeah.
You know, like a few years ago, I gave a kidney to my sister.
Damn.
Yeah, I donated a kidney to my sister. So I didn't know when I went into the transplant, I was more focused on trying to make sure she stay alive. And, you know, because at the time, she had kids and family. And I didn't have the kids at the time.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure she stay alive. And, you know, and when I closed my eyes, you know, I always said, like, God, if I open up my eyes, just, you know, help me propel this business even more. Luckily, I did open my eyes. And by the time after recovery from being in the hospital, by the time I got home, well, I was in Atlanta, and by the time I got to her place to recover, no lie to you, bro, my phone blew up so much. And I just got home from recovery. And by the time I came from Atlanta to Florida, I already had 7 cars lined up to be tuned, and I was still in recovery mode.
Damn.
And I didn't even do no advertisement because I was under surgery.
Right.
And ever since, I've been doing it for a while, but it really, really took off from that point till today. I had a customer today.
Yeah.
It blew up.
Yeah.
All I said was, like, you know, if I open my eyes on this, just please help me with this business and let me propel. And it just blew up, bro.
Damn.
Just be good to others, positive on others, because this is not easy stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna get days where it's gonna be longer. Cars is gonna disappoint you. Parts are not gonna fit. Parts are gonna be on back order. Wrong stuff is gonna be ordered, and you're gonna have a lot of frustration. But however your outlook is on it is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You keep that positive and motivated and hungry outlook, you will always propel. You know, a lot of people always want to claim to say, like, you know, you came out of nowhere. I always been here. You know, a lot of people didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
So let me explain. In my early beginnings I didn't mention this, when I was tuning more down in South Florida, I was doing it for myself, more freelance. But I had a shop reach out to me. They're like, hey man, can you do some tunes for me? I'm like, yeah, what kind of car is it? It's the Supra. I'm like, okay, what computer is it? It's AEM, da-da-da. I'm like, no worries. But I couldn't advertise it because I was coming in on the back end of that company, because that company was advertising that they tune cars.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I was coming in on the back end, just doing the work and getting paid, but I couldn't advertise it.
Yeah.
So, but after, you know, I already kind of transitioned from that shop, and I posted that car. The customer was like, bro, that's my car. I was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, that was at so and so. I was like, oh, I tuned it. They didn't know that. So all the cars I were doing, a few Supras and twin turbo 350Zs, I was doing in the background for other people down that way, or shops, you know, but they didn't know that.
Yeah.
So then I was like, you know what? I gotta go mainstream and do it for myself, and advertise it, because I'm doing all this work, but nobody knows me.
Yeah.
So then I started posting more on social media, and then that's how it started, like, taking off, when I actually started displaying my work.
Yeah. Damn. That's crazy. So you got a lot of cars that were like already tuned by you. They didn't even know.
No, they didn't know. They didn't know. I didn't care, as long as at the time I didn't care, because I didn't know where I just wanted to do it. Not to say like I wanted to do it for myself and grow and be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I was just doing it because I love what I was doing.
Yeah.
But now it's like, but I could only get busy from underneath that company. So if that company had if they did cut me off, then I would have been cut off.
Yeah.
You know, I would have had a name. I'll have a skill, but I would have a name. But that's it.
Yeah.
So I just started advertising for myself.
So what's the future for you and performance?
To be honest with you, bro, no lie to you, I've had goals set out, and I accomplished all of them. Everything I wanted, everything I've been doing, it's been working, it's been thriving. My future stuff, you know, I'm gonna continue doing more travel stuff. I opened up that door a lot last year, 'Cause I do so much remote stuff. And I was like, okay, you know, like, why would I leave my state when I could do it remotely?
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know, let me see what it's like. I get so many people want to reach out to me for me to come to their state or their island, and I go and I do it. But last year I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it more. And maybe I did a little too much back to back because it was very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. It was overwhelming, but then after like time passed, like a few weeks ago, I was like, man, I really miss it.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, really pretty cool, you know, and going to different states, interacting with people who, you know, who you see on, they see me on social media or YouTube, you know, and just kind of just talking, vibing, and, you know, and be able to the feel and see the car in person versus doing it remotely, which is the same thing. I could get the results done either way. But I think more travel tuning. I really like that.
In-person travel tuning.
In-person travel tuning.
Yep.
I have everything I want. I have the you know, overall dyno. I got the hub dyno. You know, I'm pretty much set. All the goals I put out there before, I've achieved them. So I just kind of continued growing, and I think my main thing actually, I'll take it back. My main thing actually for this year moving forward, I'm gonna finish off my 2 cars, and to start racing more.
Okay.
That's it. To start racing personally for myself. You know, I tune everybody's car, make everybody's car go fast, but like I want to just have my own car to go out there to the track, enjoy, or to have my kids there so they can see.
Yeah. And
whatever like that, and they could start getting part of my hobbies when I have it, you know, so they could kind of help me and wrench. I could teach them as well, but that's about it. That's I think that's what's, you know, just to have, so I can start getting into racing.
Yeah.
You know.
That's badass. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep doing what I'm doing right now, but just
turn it up a notch.
Turn it up a notch. I turned it up a lot last year. A lot last year.
Yeah.
By the time the year was up, I was tired.
I was cooked. He was cooked, man.
I was tired.
He was cooked.
I was tired.
Maybe you should like go like I don't know, a week every month or something, you know, instead of back to back to back to back.
Well, that's what I figured. I think I'm gonna do it more like spread out through the months.
Yeah.
But it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was only supposed to be 2 shops. And then I don't know how. And then it's like the 3rd shop was like, hey man, I really need you out here because I have all these cars lined up and we're trying to get them finished before the year's up. I don't know where I'll fit you in there. Hey man, I need you. I'm like, man, yo, what if I put you up for this month? No, bro, I have to have these cars. All right, I'll fit you in there. And then it was like, damn, I really didn't look at my schedule, and I was like, damn, this is 3 months, 7 states. Damn. I was like, this is a lot. But I was like, you know what? I did it.
Yeah.
You know, I did it. You know, but I also made sure when I did come home, I also took care of my Florida customers too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also, when I was in hotels in other states, I was also remote tuning for people in other places.
Damn.
So I'll be in Denver remote tuning for Cali or the Caribbean or wherever, and it's like, you know, still trying to not drop the ball on the other people that need me.
Right.
As well. So, because it is a benefit if I either go to other states and other people are, you know, affected by it.
Yeah. So then you're remote tuning for Florida.
No, I would not do that. Y'all gotta have to wait. No, y'all wait till I get home, bro. No, y'all wait till I get home.
You're like, man, you're remote tuning for us now? Nah. Well, Desmond, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time, man. You know, I know your time is precious. Time is money.
Yeah.
You know?
I got time for this.
Nice.
I got time for this.
I appreciate you, honestly.
Yeah.
We talked about it like you said 2 years, but I think it was like a year, honestly.
It was like your very early beginning.
Yeah.
I think I saw you do maybe like 1 or 2 podcasts or whatever like that. And I remember we were talking on the phone one time too, and it was like, you know, whenever you're ready, we can do it.
Yeah.
And then like some time has passed.
Yeah.
So, but now, you know, happy to be on here.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes somebody somewhere could be watching this and they could be in the same seat as me, where they want to get into something, or they want to own a business, or they want to get in the industry, but there's never no like voice.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people who talks about it, you know, on a higher level. They've been in the industry 20 plus years, 30 years, you know, but somebody who's young and you know, who has a good foundation, like a lot of people don't talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they just post a bunch of pictures on social media.
Yeah.
So, but I'm very, like I said, it's good and bad. I'm personable because everybody reach out to me a lot, and I always feel obligated to answer back. I never like to leave anybody like on red or not answer anybody. So I always get to everybody. So I'm happy to
do this.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Go Hard Podcast. Make sure you check out Desmond on YouTube. It's Performance Destination on Instagram and YouTube. TikTok?
No TikTok.
Okay.
TikTok's done now.
Oh, it's cooked. I forgot.
Yeah, TikTok's done
Facebook.
now.
You're on Facebook, right?
I'm on Facebook, yeah.
Facebook. Make sure you reach out to him for all your tuning needs. And check out Nitrous Express for all your nitrous applications, you know. Thank you so much, Desmond, for your time again.
I appreciate it, bro.
Peace.
All right, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll see you around. Woo! I need to get a picture like this, though.